Before Carlee Russell and before Sherry Papini and before Jesse or Jessie Smollett, there was little Miss Audrey Seiler from Madison, Wisconsin. Audrey Seiler was 20 years old. She was a student at the University of Wisconsin. She was originally, her family was from Rockford, Minnesota. When she was 20 years old and a student at the college, they were living in her dorm or apartment on or near the campus. She faked her own kidnapping. She was sitting in her dorm one night, and her claim was that she was taken by knife point and abducted by some man, and she was gone for like 3 or 4 days. The authorities saw her on camera leaving, but they saw her leaving alone from her apartment building. So she was seen on her apartment building leaving her campus. But the authorities at the time really thought that she had been abducted because even though they didn't see anybody else on the camera, they thought she had went outside and got abducted outside of her dorm or her apartment building. So she was missing for like 3 or 4 days, and during that whole time, just like they did for Carlee Russell, Sherry Papini, authorities and the public searched. They had search parties going, and everybody, including her family, friends, fellow college students, her community in Madison, Wisconsin, and her community from Rockford, Minnesota, people came from her hometown to Wisconsin to search for her. 'Cause that's how much they thought about her family. So they came to Madison, Wisconsin searching for her. The police were scouring the whole area for her. And Audrey was found alive in a marsh near her campus 3 to 4 days later. So she went missing March 27th, 2004, and she was missing until March 31st, 2004, when she was found alive in a marsh near her campus. At the time of her disappearance, she did not have a coat or a purse with her. When she was found, she was taken to St. Mary's Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin, and the doctor who treated her, Dr. Philip Schultz, said she was cold and dehydrated when she was brought to the hospital, but she was released after being there less than 6 hours because she had no major injuries. Audrey told the police that she was abducted at knife point. Authorities didn't believe her story because the facts just did not add up. And I believe she told them she was abducted at knife point from her apartment or dorm room. And of course, they had already seen on camera that she left the apartment building alone. There was nobody holding a knife to her. But she claimed like she was sitting at her desk studying or working at her computer, whatever, and somebody came in her room and abducted her at knife point. Prior to her fake disappearance, Audrey had also claimed that she was struck from behind in February of 2004 by an unknown assailant and knocked unconscious. She said she was not assaulted or robbed. So the police did not buy her story, and she eventually did admit to lying, although she later recanted. But she did finally agree to a plea agreement deal, which means she pled guilty. But she only got 3 years probation and had to pay back the police. She did not get any jail time. So the Dane County Circuit Court Judge James Martin gave her 3 years probation and made her reimburse the Madison Police Department at about $250 a month. And I think the total she had to pay back was just $9,000. So that may have helped the police recoup their losses, but just think about all the volunteers and all the community efforts involved. So she got off very, very easy. But she was one of the, I won't say one of the first cases of faked crime reporting, because that has gone on since the beginning of time, probably since law enforcement has existed. But because she was the first like case that went national for this, and people like with Carlee Russell and Sherry Papini, they assume or think that she's just mentally ill because they say, think how could somebody do that unless they were mentally ill. So people did feel have compassion for her and feel sorry for her. So she got off very easy. She got 3 years probation. She had to pay back $9,000 to the police. And she also could have the charges expunged from her record if she completed her probation, which means today, as far as I know, she hasn't gotten any more trouble. Her record is totally expunged, so that means that she can, work with kids, get a job in a school, get a job in, any type of business without fear of, them being able to use her record against her. So she got off very easy, but she was 20 years old at the time. And so, maybe they figured she was mentally ill, that in the future she would not commit any more crimes or do this again, that she would learn her lesson. When Audrey was in court, she read a statement in court in which she blamed depression for her hoax. So, that's like with Sherry Papini and Carlee Russell, not them specifically, but their lawyers and family members or others, the public, say it must have been mental illness that made them do what they did. So Audrey withdrew from school and she pleaded guilty to 2 counts of obstructing officers as part of the plea agreement. So she just got those little misdemeanor charges. So hopefully today, Carlee Russell will get some stiffer penalties and charges just because the public needs to know that they can't do stuff like this. And Sherry Papini, she was convicted and sentenced to federal prison for like 18 months. So that's a pretty long sentence. Some people probably think it should be longer, and some people probably think Carlee Russell's sentence should be harsher. But I don't know what the future holds and what they're going to do in Carlee Russell's case. But I can tell you that Audrey Seiler got off very easy back in 2004. But I have a feeling today the judges won't be as lenient with Carlee Russell like they weren't with Sherry Papini, because they can't just allow people to report such awful crimes that don't even exist and get the community all scared and in fear and get the community looking for predators and criminals that don't exist and looking for innocent little children that don't exist. So Audrey Seiler back in March of 2004 did her thing. And of course, since then and before then, there were others. So I'm going to read some articles about this case and some others. Besides Carlee Russell and Audrey Seiler having in common that they were both college students, even though Audrey was 20 and Carlee was a bit older at 25 at the time of their fake kidnapping hoaxes. Another thing they had in common was they also did their fake kidnappings in a community or area not long after other young girls had actually in reality been kidnapped and killed. Like for Audrey Seiler, she did her fake kidnapping in March of 2004. Well, just a year prior in 2003, this young woman right here, Drew Sedin, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing her name right, it's Dru, then last name Sjodin, from Minnesota, Audrey's home state, was actually kidnapped and murdered by a man. And she was missing and they found her body. So that was very sad for her family and the whole community in that state and the surrounding states and the nation. I believe she was working at a mall and was kidnapped from a mall parking lot. Well, in Carlee Russell's case, there was a young girl from Alabama named Anaya Blanchard. This is her picture right here. Beautiful young girl who in 2019 went missing she had been kidnapped and murdered. Her body was found later. And she was in Alabama, the same state as Carlee Russell. Some people said back in time when Audrey Seiler did her fake kidnapping that maybe she got some ideas about fake kidnapping when she saw all the attention that this young woman got. And then, since Carlee Russell lives in Alabama, did she get some ideas about her fake kidnapping and all the attention it would bring her because of all the attention Anaya Blanchard's case got? At least in the state of Alabama, Anaya Blanchard's case got a lot of attention. So a lot of the people in Minnesota who helped search for this young woman were also praying and helping in the search for little Miss Audrey Seiler, who was not actually missing, who did her fake kidnapping hoax. So that's sad. And then even sadder today, when Carlee Russell went missing, Carlee Russell's family, I believe her parents, her mother, if the reports I've read are accurate, actually reached out to Anaya Blanchard's mother and asked her to lead the search for Carlee Russell. So how awful is that? Hopefully the parents, really believed, that their daughter was missing and did not do this to this poor woman, knowing that their daughter wasn't really kidnapped. But some people think that. But this young girl was actually kidnapped and murdered. And her parents, when their daughter, not her parents, but Carlee Russell's parents in Alabama asked Anaya Blanchard's mother in Alabama to lead the search for Carlee. To just imagine the pain and trauma that caused Anaya Blanchard's mother, because this is still recent. This is just 2019 that this girl was kidnapped and murdered. That's just a few years. In reality, the mother's still grieving, and her life and the father's life and her siblings' life will never be the same. But then the mother had to come out and help search for Carlee Russell, who totally faked her abduction and kidnapping and admitted through her lawyer that it was all fake. So that's just something that both Audrey Seiler and Carlee Russell had in common, and it's that they both went missing at a time when the community still had open wounds from young women who had actually been kidnapped and murdered. So that's just another sad aspect of Carlee Russell's case and Audrey Seiler's case. This is an article regarding Audrey Seiler's case from 2004. This is an article from Time magazine. It's called Abduction Overworld by Darren Fonda. It's written or published Sunday, April 4th, 2004. If her high school yearbook had featured the category, Audrey Seiler might well have been voted the girl least likely to fake her own kidnapping. She was a small town girl, raised in tiny Rockford, Minnesota, population 3,500, a tall, pretty brunette. She was Honor Society president her senior year at Rockford High School, captained the volleyball and basketball teams, and graduated third in her class in 2002. The manager of the Rockford Public Library says Seiler used to show up with small children in tow and tutored summer school students. She was the kind of kid you want to hold up as a role model, says Roman Periscala, Seiler's principal at Rockford High. Rockford residents may not want to hold her up quite so high anymore. Seiler's tale of abduction unraveled in spectacular fashion last week, raising questions about why a woman who is so loved by her community would cause her friends and neighbors so much grief. Seiler, 20, a sophomore at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, was reported missing by her roommate on March 27th. A massive search was launched to find her. Dozens of kids came from Seiler's high school to pitch in, and a surveillance tape showing her leaving her dorm was played repeatedly on national TV. The apparent abduction shook the city. Citizens became bloodhounds, dorms became prayer centers, and Madison itself was on edge. On March 31st, Seiler was found in a marsh a couple of miles from campus after a woman spotted her and called police. Seiler was bruised and suffering mildly from exposure, but otherwise unharmed. Police at first accelerated the hunt for a perpetrator. At a nearby cancer clinic, about 50 employees and 5 cancer patients were herded into a room as officers swarmed through the building looking for a suspect. People had radiation treatments aborted because you can't run the machines with cops on the roof, says a worker. Treatments were delayed 2.5 hours. But within hours, the tale began to crumble. The more questions police asked, the less they believed Seiler's account. Investigators now say she may have planned her abduction. Seiler initially claimed to have been kidnapped near her apartment, police say. Then an abduction story 2.0 changed the location to another part of town. Police also reviewed a store videotape that showed her a few weeks earlier buying rope, duct tape, cough medicine, and a knife, the very items she said her abductor had used to kidnap her. An analysis of internet searches on her computer found information about woodsy areas in the vicinity in a weather report for the week. Last Friday, Acting Madison Police Chief Noble Ray concluded, "We do not believe there is a suspect at large, period." If Seiler did fake her abduction, she wouldn't be the first, but false criminal reports that aren't motivated by money or revenge are rare, according to forensic psychiatrist Park Dietz, who knows of roughly 50 U.S. cases in the past 20 years. When they do happen, they tend to make headlines. In 1988, Dietz testified in the grand jury investigation of Tawana Brawley, a black woman who claimed to have been abducted and raped by a gang of white men in upstate New York. The grand jury found her claims to be untrue. Dietz coined the term fictitious victimization disorder to describe what occurs when someone claims to be a victim to win sympathy and support. The motives for individuals who stage their own victimization range from trying to get out of exams to stirring a boyfriend to pay more attention, Dietz says. It isn't yet clear what motivated Seiler. Police Chief Ray said Seiler stated that she just wanted to quote unquote be alone. If so, she found a highly public way of expressing her desire for solitude. Whether she will be charged with a crime or asked to repay the cost of the manhunt isn't yet known. Her dean offered sympathy. While we do not condone the behavior attributed to Audrey, we fully understand that people communicate their need for help in many different ways. Lulu Hong said in a statement, whatever her reasons, one question Seiler has raised is whether folks will put their lives on hold the next time a young woman is reported missing in their town. Well, how much does this case sound like the case of Carlee Russell? Let's see, some things they have in common, besides them, of course, being college students and young, that they both were very apparently good students and well liked in their communities and came from good families and had, nice, either middle class or upper middle class lives. So they were well thought of in their communities and by other people. And another thing both Audrey Seiler and Carlee Russell's cases have in common is that people got together and worked hard to try to find them so that they could help them. And police did a lot. I mean, they did a lot. When Audrey Seiler was found in the marsh, the police and the public thought there was somebody on the loose, a predator, a kidnapper was on the loose. So they had, guns drawn and they surrounded the marsh area and buildings around there. And poor cancer patients had to delay their treatments, in order for this search to take place. And there was no kidnapper, there was no predator to look for. But because Audrey Seiler had lied and hadn't yet came clean, or the police, didn't know that she was lying yet, police were going crazy looking for this abductor who did not exist. And it caused a lot of people not only inconvenience, but a lot of pain and suffering, a lot of unnecessary stuff that they had to go through, all because of the lies of Audrey Seiler. So that's very similar to Carlee Russell's case. I mean, people searching for Carlee Russell got, poison ivy and stuff in the woods looking for her. People were out in the hot sun looking for this woman. Anaya Blanchard's mother, who's still grieving and suffering from the loss of her daughter in such a vicious manner, was out there in the hot sun motivating people to search for, organizing, talking to the news media, rallying people, and helping Carlee Russell's parents. These cases are so similar. It makes you wonder, did Carlee Russell know about this case? But she wouldn't need to know about this case. One, Carlee Russell has her own imagination and she has access to the internet. And so she probably, got her ideas from many cases. Obviously, she probably got one of her ideas from the movie Taken, because that was one of her internet searches. And so, like Carlee Russell's case today, where her internet searches helped to prove that she was lying about her abduction, way back in 2004, Audrey Seiler's internet searches helped do her in, because she searched for like parks and stuff in wooded areas in the area. Because to my understanding, Audrey Seiler actually was out in the woods for 3 to 4 days. She was out in the elements for 3 to 4 days. As far as we know, I mean, she could have went somewhere and sought shelter for a couple of days, and then the day she was found, just been in the marsh. Because you can't believe anything that Audrey Seiler said about her account, and you can't believe anything Carlee Russell will say. You have to have evidence and proof. So back then in 2004, they had Audrey Seiler on camera leaving alone. So they knew her first lie about being kidnapped from her room was that was not true. But they didn't know everything that went on while she was gone. And they had surveillance camera of weeks before. That's how long, she'd been planning this. She had purchased the items that she used in her own fake kidnapping, like cough medicine and stuff. So they had that on camera. Let me go back to that in the article. It says police also reviewed a store videotape that showed her a few weeks earlier buying rope, duct tape, cough medicine, and a knife. The very items she said her abductor had used to kidnap her. So her case is very similar to Carlee's case because there seems to have been a lot of pre-planning involved, like from internet searches to buying stuff needed. Like we know Carlee Russell purchased like stuff from Target like right before she went missing, but what did she already have in a bag in her car? Did she have bottled water and other food and snacks and cash and a burner phone, a burner cell phone, an untraceable cell phone? How long did Carlee Russell plan her abduction? I don't think she just decided on that day to do it. A lot of people do, but I don't, people give Carlee Russell and people gave Audrey Seiler a lot more credit than they deserve, in my opinion. Because, people like them who would do such a thing and put people and their families and the communities through stuff like this don't really have much of a conscience, don't really have shame and embarrassment. So, and like Carlee Russell, she has spoken through her attorney, but she has not told the public that I know of yet that she was sorry, and she has not said everything that went on while she was gone, or how she disappeared. Where was she at? But Audrey Seiler did the same thing and wasn't forthcoming. Audrey Seiler in February of 2004 had reported that she had been hit over the head and knocked unconscious in an attack. Police never found any evidence of that, and they never charged anybody with that. But till the day, I don't know about today, but to the day that she was in court for her fake kidnapping charge, she never admitted that that was fake. She told her lawyer that that was true. So it was true that she had been hit over the head and knocked unconscious in February 2004. It's like people like Audrey Seiler and Carlee Russell will only admit to things if others can prove them wrong. Like Audrey Seiler would never admit that her claim about being attacked in February of 2004 and knocked unconscious was fake because police had no evidence of that. It wasn't on camera to disprove, there was no evidence that they had to disprove that. So she never admitted to that. So will Carlee Russell ever admit to somebody having helped her in her disappearance if the police can't prove it? It's like Carlee Russell, or through her attorney anyway, has only admitted to stuff that the cops have already told the media that they know about. Like there was no baby on the side of the road. She was not abducted because police have evidence of that. There's videotape of her car on the side of the road, and they can see that there was no child. And so it's like Audrey Seiler and Carlee Russell and even, Sherry Papini only admit to things once they can be proven, overwhelmingly proven by the authorities. So that's something else that these cases have in common. I want to show you some pictures regarding Audrey Seiler's case. This picture right here is of a press conference that was held while she was missing, while they still believe that she was kidnapped. See all the reporters and everybody there? It's got national attention as well as statewide attention. This is the police chief or the assistant police chief at the time. I can't think of his name right now, but Noble Ray. Noble Ray, that's his name. So like Carlee Russell's case, Audrey Seiler's case got a lot of attention. And this is, of course, Audrey Seiler. This right here is a picture of her mother, this lady in the pink sweater, being hugged by a Wisconsin police officer, is Stephanie Seiler. This is Audrey's mother, and this is right after they found out when the police officer told her that Audrey had been found alive. Look at the relief on her mama's face. Look at the relief. And this is her mother, Stephanie. And over here to the left is her grandmother. I don't know her name, but this is her mother's mother. So this is her mother and her grandmother. And I believe this lady to the right is a friend of the family. Or it probably says right here, okay. Stephanie Seiler, center left, mother of missing University of Wisconsin student Audrey Seiler, reacts to the news from Madison police officer Jane Lombardo, center right, that her daughter has been found alive and well March 31st, 2004. Stephanie Seiler's mother, Jody Dell, that's Jody Dell, and family friend Lori Lipinski, right, also react to the news. Look, they're crying and the joy, like the agony and the joy of finding out that your daughter and your granddaughter is alive and well. Just think, how could somebody with a conscience put their mama, their grandmama, their family friends, the police, a community through something like that? Think about what type of mind would do something like that. This is her father at a news conference when she was found alive. Her father's name is Keith, I believe, Keith Seiler or Sailor. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I just pronounce it different ways, but Keith Seiler and Stephanie Seiler or Sailor. See, they're wearing their pins of their daughter Audrey right here. And this, look at the relief on him, the joy on his face after finding out that his daughter was alive. It's their mother again. And this is after she was found alive. This is at the hospital. It says Assistant Police Chief Noble Ray of the Madison Police Department makes opening statements at a news conference at St. Mary's Hospital, March 31st, 2004 in Madison, Wisconsin. Seated at the table are her parents, Keith and Stephanie, and her brother, Kyle. So this is a news conference after she was found, of course, and this is the doctor who treated her, Dr. Philip Schultz, speaks at a news conference regarding the condition of Audrey Seiler, March 31st, 2004 at St. Mary's Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin. He said Seiler was cold and dehydrated when she was brought to the hospital. She was released after being there less than 6 hours. Schultz said Seiler also had muscle aches from being confined. So she had told the police that she was tied up or bound in some way. But even the doctors, have to be a part of this hoax. Just think of all the people that Audrey lied to, and think of all the people that Carlee Russell has lied to. Think of all the people affected in some way or another by their hoaxes. And this, it's not funny, but this is a candlelight vigil that they held for Audrey once she was found. It says a young girl looks at her candle during a candlelight celebration March 31st, 2004 in Rockford, Minnesota, outside the home of missing college student Audrey Seiler, who was found alive earlier that day. So her community was having a candlelight vigil for this girl while she was wherever she was. I don't know if she had been released from the hospital yet, whatever. But, still not telling the community the truth that she had faked this whole thing. But look at the wonderful people. There are good people in this world, like back then in 2004 and today in 2023 with Carlee Russell's case. Good people. There are still good people in this world who want to help other people. Look at the tears on this woman's face. Audrey Hines, a student at the University of Wisconsin-South, calls her classmates to give them the news about Audrey Seiler being found March 31st, 2004 from a Madison, Wisconsin hotel where the search party was staying. Hines said she has known Seiler since kindergarten and the two grew up playing sports together. So this is a college classmate who's crying with relief and joy that she had been found alive. And it also mentions that the search party was staying at a hotel. Who paid for that? Audrey didn't pay for that, I'm sure. So a lot of people, spent a lot of money, time, and effort doing stuff for this girl and her hoax. And this was after she was found, people putting up yellow ribbons to celebrate that she had been returned. It says Bryce Stassen, 8 years old, a neighbor of Audrey Seiler's family, attaches a yellow bow to a large tree in the Seilers' yard in Rockford, Minnesota, with the help of his grandmother, Gail Stassen, March 31st, 2004. Friends gathered to decorate the Seilers' front yard after Audrey was found alive and healthy. So they're celebrating her return. They don't know it's a hoax yet. This is Madison police officers using a dog to search an area near the place where missing University of Wisconsin student Audrey was found alive earlier in the day in Madison, Wisconsin. So she was found alive, and then they're doing all this search with guns and search dogs looking for the perpetrator of her fake crime that she still had not told them yet. Like I said, she did not admit it until she absolutely had to, and then later I think she recanted. See, this again is them looking for the perpetrator of her crime once they found her alive. This is more of the celebration. The police department, the Rockford Fire Department, put "Welcome Home Audrey" on their sign. And this is her family members hugging, or family members and a neighbor hugging, and some young kids from the community. Just all these people. Look at the joy and the celebration when they found her alive, when they got the news. I believe this was at the hotel. It says the two women were among several people from Audrey's hometown who came to Madison to help with the search. So they traveled from Rockford, Minnesota to Madison, Wisconsin to search for this girl, and it was all a hoax. This is more of the candlelight vigil they held for her once she had been found. It's a candlelight celebration, not a vigil. I keep calling it a vigil, but it's like a candlelight celebration. This is after she was found. So there they are, people happy, holding their candles. This girl was found. This was before they knew it was a hoax, though. So keep that in mind. It says a girl holds a candle in yellow rose with others gathered outside the home of Audrey Seiler in Rockford, Minnesota, March 31st, 2004, to give thanks and celebrate the safe return of Audrey. So I'm going to read an article showing what punishment Audrey faced for her crimes. So this happened in March of 2004. By the end of June 2004, her court case was already taken care of. This article was from NBC News. It was written July 1st, 2004. It says, woman who faked abduction gets probation. Audrey Seiler, the University of Wisconsin student who faked her abduction, was sentenced Thursday to 3 years probation after she pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanor counts. Seiler read a statement during the court hearing in which she attributed the ordeal to severe depression that caused her to act irrationally. I'm taking care of myself now, so someday people will see I'm still a girl to be proud of, said Seiler, who withdrew from school after the widely publicized incident and is in therapy. Seiler, 20, pleaded guilty to 2 counts of obstructing officers as part of a plea agreement. Her March 27th disappearance touched off an intense search as national TV played footage from a surveillance camera that showed her leaving her off campus apartment building with no coat or purse, a month after she had reported an attack by an unknown assailant. She turned up in a marsh March 31st claiming she had been abducted at knife point, but her story quickly crumbled. Investigators later said she faked the abduction because she was upset by a fading relationship with a boyfriend. So let me just stop reading here and say that's similar to Carlee Russell's case too, in that people are saying that Carlee Russell did her fake kidnapping over a man. So that's something else they have in common, if it's true. Seiler of Rockford, Minnesota, nodded softly Thursday as Dane County Circuit Judge James Martin ticked off the conditions of her probation. They include reimbursing the Madison Police Department $250 a month, an amount that could increase to $400 a month if she graduates and gets a job before her probation ends. Seiler can have the charges expunged from her record if she completes her probation. She could have faced up to 9 months in jail and a $10,000 fine for each of 2 misdemeanor charges. But of course, she didn't get any time in jail or a $10,000 fine. Dane County District Attorney Brian Blanchard described Seiler's conduct as narcissistic and said she selfishly and intentionally deceived police. She's not in court today because she's depressed. She committed a series of selfish acts without regard for others, Blanchard said. Her attorney, Randy Hopper, said the former college student began a spiral of depression after an aunt died, and problems with her boyfriend exacerbated her troubles. Hopper claimed she had a breakdown and she had no idea what she was doing during the day she went missing. Everybody has different levels of coping skills. She probably discovered her coping skills weren't what she hoped they'd be, Hopper said. After the hearing, Seiler's mother, Stephanie, thanked the media, police, and searchers for their efforts. The fact remains she was lost in a very real sense, she said. So let me stop reading here and just say that, like in Carlee Russell's case today, the mother is standing by her child and, putting it all on mental health issues. Seiler also claimed she was struck from behind in February by an unknown assailant and knocked unconscious. She said she was moved about a block or so from where she was attacked, but was not sexually assaulted or robbed. Hopper said Seiler still insists that attack happened. Blanchard declined to comment. So her lawyer says that she still insists that happened. So she only admits to stuff that they have proof of. I have a feeling, of course, that's what I guess any criminal would do. But, I do not believe at all that she was attacked in February. Hopper said Seiler still insists that attack happened. Blanchard declined to comment. I already read that. Okay. Dozens of volunteers from her hometown traveled to Madison in March, slogging through marshes and woods around campus looking for any sign of her. She turned up March 31st, curled in a fetal position in a marsh near a state office building. Seiler told police that a man had abducted her at knife point. But police concluded Seiler made up the story after obtaining a store videotape that showed her buying the knife, duct tape, rope, and cold medicine she claimed her abductor used to restrain her. Seiler confessed after she was confronted with the tape, saying, "I'm just so messed up," according to authorities. But she later recanted the statement, insisting she had been abducted. So you see, she did end up pleading guilty to it, but during the time she was being interviewed by police, and then, they showed her evidence, so she admitted it, but then she later recanted. So you can't trust anything somebody like Audrey or Carlee says, because obviously they like to lie, manipulate, and deceive people. So you can't really trust anything they say. You have to validate everything that they say. So that's how her case ended up. I wonder how Carlee Russell's case will end up. I do definitely think she'll get some charges. I don't know if they'll be misdemeanors or felonies, but we shall see. And something else to add, during the search, some of the people who were like waist deep and knee deep in the marsh and the mud and the muddy water or whatever were her father and brother. So I wonder what, of course, I know her family forgives her and all that, but wonder what her brother thought. What if her brother had been hurt or something while he was searching for her? How would she have felt then? Well, maybe she doesn't feel anything. Maybe she has no conscience. So just, what if somebody had died of a heart attack in the hot sun searching for Carlee Russell today? Would Carlee Russell have any sympathy or empathy for that person over her fake hoax? I don't think so. So this article is from Psychology Today. This article was written July 1st of 2004. So this was a long time ago. This was written July 1st, 2004, just a few months after Audrey Seiler's fake hoax crime. So let's read this article to see what they thought about stuff like this back then. It says, crying wolf, fabricated crimes. When people stage a crime against themselves, is it just a call for attention? This is by Neil Parmar, published July 1st, 2004. Okay, once feared, kidnapped, or worse, Audrey Seiler, a University of Wisconsin honor student, was found in the spring of 2004 curled up near a marsh in Madison. She told police she'd been held captive at knife point for 4 days. Melissa McGee from Auburn, Washington, reported she had been assaulted in a park, and I don't say that word, I don't know if I can say that word in a video, in 2003 while her 5-year-old daughter played nearby. That same year, a 16-year-old New York girl said a man with a swastika tattoo punched her in the face after she refused to get into his car. All 3 women have since admitted their stories were fabricated. The Seiler and McGee cases have another common thread. Both seem to be cries for attention targeted at specific people. Seiler allegedly sought her disinterested boyfriend's eye, while McGee reportedly hoped her parents would pay her rent. Oh, good grief. That's not funny, but like McGee faked an assault, a sexual assault, so that her parents would pay her rent. Oh my goodness. Okay. Such stories aren't as rare as one might think. Although few match the media frenzy generated by the Seiler case, well, they didn't know what would happen in 2023 and back in whatever year it was Sherry Papini went missing, and they weren't here for the Jesse Smollett case, were they? It says, although few match the media frenzy generated by the Seiler case, newspapers are sprinkled with local stories of crime fakery. Many hoaxes are discovered, but it's likely that others are not. Think of maybe possibly innocent people sitting in prison for hoaxes. Good grief. Psychologists have dubbed the phenomenon the boy who cried wolf effect, named after Aesop's fable about a shepherd who fakes wolf attacks. In real life, experts say these shepherds, mostly women, aren't acting out of boredom. These damsels in distress are very often motivated by an intense desire for attention and may feel unfairly neglected by those close to them, often romantic partners. Well, I think that would fit Carlee Russell if the rumors are true about her and her boyfriend. Others are simply crying out to a world they feel ignores them. People who fake crimes are transforming feelings of invisibility into a fantasy that they may come to believe is reality, says Bonnie Jacobson, a psychologist and director of the New York Institute for Psychological Change in New York City. She says a hoaxer wins attention by playing the passive victim, similar to a person with Munchausen syndrome who fakes an illness to get the attention of doctors or loved ones. But that doesn't mean that people who perpetrate large-scale deceptions are necessarily in need of psychiatric help, says Maureen O'Sullivan, a University of San Francisco psychology professor who studies how people lie. They simply may be good actors, which is in part why we believe them. Yeah, a lot of people believed, of course, Jussie Smollett, Sherry Papini, and of course, people believed Audrey at the time of her disappearance, and people believed Carlee today, although I think a lot less people believe Carlee right now, because I'm filming this video on July 26, 2023, and it's after her lawyer has already admitted that she lied about some things. He didn't say all the things she lied about, but she has admitted that she was not kidnapped. Let's see. In one study published in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin, O'Sullivan found people will more readily believe even outrageous lies when the deceiver is familiar, outgoing, and outwardly happy. That's because we tend to listen to their personality more than the content of their story. Hoaxes often spin out of control, O'Sullivan warns, when the liar decides to harm herself to make the hoax appear more convincing. That would be Sherry Papini. I mean, she harmed herself. The girl branded herself. I mean, that's pretty extreme. And this article was written in 2004, and Sherry Papini's case didn't happen, I think it was 2016. So this was, you know, they knew about stuff like this long before Sherry Papini came about. But still, the public isn't aware of all this psychology stuff. So a lot of people, found it very hard to believe that Sherry Papini would harm herself physically or allow others to harm her physically to pull off a fake hoax kidnapping story. Among crime hoaxes, there's a subset of tricksters who concoct crimes for political causes, say Greg O'Crary, a retired FBI agent who profiles criminals as director of Behavioral Criminology International, a consultancy in Fredericksburg, Virginia. This kind of hoaxer is just as likely to be a man as a woman. A case occurred in November 2003 when Jamie Alexander Sade, a Northwestern University student in Evanston, Illinois, published a column about his Mexican heritage in the campus newspaper after he claimed to be the target of 2 hate crimes. Sade later, I don't know how to pronounce that one, Saide, later confessed to filing false reports to bring attention to campus race relations. So hoaxers are often, once they get found out, they'll say, "Oh, I did it to help bring attention." Like some people are going to say Carlee Russell did her crime today to bring attention to human trafficking, which is, of course, BS, but a lot of people are going to believe that. Her lawyer might even try to use that in the end. But like Carlee Russell might come out and say, well, she did it because she wanted to bring attention to poor children who were being human trafficked, or women like her who were being human trafficked, which is, of course, BS. That's not why Carlee Russell or Audrey Seiler, that's not why they do stuff like this. It's always something, they're narcissists. It's something to do with them and for them to get attention. They're not concerned about other people. Obviously, if you're concerned about other people, you don't do stuff like this and put people through this kind of anguish and just outright hell. I mean, her parents, when they thought she was really missing, went through hell, just like Audrey Seiler's parents went through hell. And this is why I don't believe a lot of stuff that people accuse politicians of today, unless I see it or can, for myself, or can get a feeling for that person's personality, because people lie for politics and people get paid to lie against politicians. So I don't, when it comes to I hate predators, but I also hate people who lie in fake kidnappings and assaults. I think women who lie about getting assaulted, sexually assaulted when they're not, should face the same prison time that somebody would get if they had actually assaulted somebody in that way. I hate perverts, but I hate people who make up stories and wrongly accuse people of being perverts when they're not. It's just, they make it so much harder for innocent people who really are victimized. I hate that about our society. And I have no sympathy for women who do that. I don't care what religion they are, what political party they're from. I do not like false accusers. While most reported hate crimes are real, hoaxes often occur on college campuses around the same time as anti-racism forums, says Laird Wilcox, whose book Crying Wolf includes more than 320 staged hate crimes that he's tracked in the U.S. since 1994. Consider the case of Carrie Dunn, a social psychology professor at Claremont McKenna College in Claremont, California, who police suspect may have slashed her own car's tires, smashed its windshield, and spray painted it with racial slurs just hours before speaking at a campus forum against hate crimes last spring. So this lady was a college professor of psychology, no less, who police believe smashed her own windshield and spray painted it with racial slurs just hours before speaking at a campus forum against hate crimes. Two eyewitnesses identified her as the culprit shortly after the hundreds of students marched to protest the crime. Dunn denies that she staged the attack. That happened, I think, in 1994. Let's see. Well, sometime before, we know it's sometime between 1994 and 2004. This is when that happened. So, this fake crime stuff has been going on a long time and in different ways. Another big tip-off is when an alleged victim calls the press before calling the police. These people are not knowledgeable about what a typical crime looks like, McCrary says. You'll try to find support for their allegations and find the facts don't match up. Seiler, the supposed Wisconsin abductee, was exposed when police uncovered a store surveillance video that captured her purchasing rope, cold medication, and a knife, all items that she claimed were used to hold her captive. Detectives soon discovered that only a month before, the 20-year-old had claimed she was attacked and knocked unconscious near her apartment. Investigating hoaxes is costly. Seiler's case sparked a manhunt involving 150 officers, police dogs, and a helicopter. It cost more than $96,000. And remember, she only had to pay back $9,000. She only had to pay back $9,000 and had no jail time and had her record expunged after her 3 years probation was up. But it cost more than $96,000. Now that's just from authorities. It's not what other individuals paid out to go and help in the search and stuff like that. Such actions can carry a sentence of 18 months in jail and a $20,000 fine for lying to police. Well, Sherry Papini got 18 months in federal prison for her crime. So, according to police interviews, she says, "I set everything up. I'm just so messed up. I'm sorry." So that's what Psychology Today had to say about fake crimes back in 2004. Nothing has changed. People are still faking crimes and doing it in the same ways that they've always been done, apparently. So, what do you think about Audrey Seiler's case? And do you think, like I do, that is very similar to Carlee Russell's case? They're both college students. They both lied to everybody, including their families. I don't know when Carlee Russell's family found out she was lying, but I know Audrey Seiler's family believed her until the police got Audrey to confess. Um, so, what do you think about these fake crime hoaxes? What do you think about Audrey Seiler faking her own kidnapping? And what do you think about Carlee Russell's case today? And do you believe that they're mentally ill and should get off because they're mentally ill? Do you think they should be punished to the fullest extent of the law? And do you think we should even increase penalties for people who fake hoaxes? Should we increase the jail times, the punishments that we have for people who do these types of crimes? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for listening.